Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So the topic of today is what is Theravada Buddhism? Maybe you're familiar with a little bit of Theravada Buddhism, but I'm going to talk about all three different schools of Buddhism and the differences between the three schools, and then the distinction of what Theravada Buddhism is. Then next week I will go into more detailed subjects of Theravada Buddhism. So Theravada means school of the elders. Thera means elder. Thera means elder, Thera. Or Thera. Theravada. Vada means the teachings, or the words, or the speech of the elders. And it was oral tradition. So it's the teachings of the elders. There are three schools of Buddhism. There's Vajrayana Buddhism, which is Tibetan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, which is composed of Chinese Buddhism, Korean Buddhism, Vietnamese Buddhism, and Japanese, yeah.
That's Mahayana.
It's Mahayana. Mahayana means the greater, yana means vehicle, and maha means greater, or great, like powerful, or big. And yana is vehicle, and when the Mahayana was formed, they called the other school the Hinayana, which means inferior.
No means
So they, it also means the lesser vehicle, like the big vehicle, the small vehicle. Vajrayana means the diamond, Vajra means diamond, and Yana means vehicle. And so there's three schools. They call them the three turnings of the wheel of Dhamma. The first turning was Theravada, and then they said then there was another turning, which was Mahayana, and Vajrayana was the next one. Vajrayana and Mahayana can actually be grouped into Mahayana, both together. There's they call this the wheels, and there's a Buddhist magazine called Tricycle Magazine. I don't know if you've heard of that magazine, that publication. So a tricycle is a vehicle with three wheels, and so that's what they're referring to. They're a magazine that covers Buddhism, all the schools, and so they call it Tricycle Magazine. So actually I didn't really figure that out until a long time.
You just a great magazine, but they're going to tend to be the three vehicles of Buddhism.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of insight. Sometimes we call Zen another vehicle as well, but it's grouped into Mahayana. All three schools, they believe in the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Noble Path. This is the core of Buddhism. And if we were to group the schools in sort of a set theory, we could have three concentric circles. So we have the first circle, the first and innermost circle would be Theravada Buddhism, or Hinayana. But we prefer the word Theravada. The second circle would be the Mahayana. And if you draw another circle, this would be Vajrayana. So you have three concentric circles. And with set theory, the outer circles include the inner circles. But the inner circles do not include the outer circles. So Theravada Buddhism does not include Theravada Buddhism. If we had, you could sum it up as the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Noble Path. Actually, the Eightfold Noble Path is part of the Four Noble. It's the Fourth Noble Truth. But there's a lot to Theravada Buddhism. We actually subscribe to all the texts that are written in the Pali language, which is very similar to the Sanskrit language. It's an Indian-based language, which was it was a spoken language at one time, whereas Sanskrit was only an academic language, like Latin. It was pretty much like that. So if we have these three circles, so Theravada believes in their stuff. They believe in the Pali texts, and they don't believe in anything else. And then Mahayana has extra stuff. So they don't believe in the Mahayana extra stuff. Supposedly the Mahayana has the extra stuff, and they believe in the Theravada Buddhism, and they should match. And then lastly they have the Vajrayana. Mahayana doesn't necessarily recognize everything in Vajrayana Buddhism. So they have extra stuff too. So there's two extra layers of teachings. I shouldn't call it stuff, but it's the teachings. They have extra teachings. So I don't know much about the extra teachings. They have extra sutras. So in Mahayana they usually refer to the Sanskrit words. And Mahayana was actually is preserved. They have a nice collection of books in the Chinese language. The Sanskrit books is just little pieces, mix and match pieces that have survived. But the Chinese language, Tipitaka, has survived. Now the books are arranged in what we call the Tripitaka or Tipitaka, Tipitaka, and this is a basket, means three baskets. The books were actually just they were just palm leaves, and they were very big, and they carried them in a basket. So they called it the three baskets. The three baskets are the Vinaya, which is the texts of the rules or the morality for the monks. The suttas are the teachings. And the Abhidhamma is the analysis of the teachings. Yeah, so I use the Pali language, but it would be like the Vinaya. In Sanskrit, it would be the sutras, and the Abhidharma would be the Sanskrit names. The Abhidharma is they take a bunch of lists, and it's very analytical and systematic, and it's sort of like the footnotes to all of the teachings of the Buddha. So there's a Four Noble Truths, which is central to Theravada Buddhism and also all forms of Buddhism. And that's the first Noble Truth is dukkha satcha. It means, that life is suffering. Everything is suffering. We have three characteristics in Theravada that are core. It's anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So everything is impermanent. Because everything is impermanent, there is no satisfaction that can be found, no lasting satisfaction that can be found. And through meditation you find that it's very momentary. Everything is momentary. When you taste something, you think it's like a stream of taste coming to you. But if you were to drink the last bit of a milkshake or something like that through a straw, it would just, you get little tastes, and it's not very satisfying. You slurp as much as you want, but you get these little tastes, these little micro tastes, but they're not really anything substantial. But actually, if you could calm down the mind and understand how the mind works, you would understand that even when you have a full milkshake, full cup of, that you're drinking from a straw, it's still not a stream. There's all these just little tastes that are again and again and again, and it's not anything that's substantial actually, but we're fooled by that. We are fooled by that through ignorance. We think it's substantial, and so this is because of this. It is dukkha. This is suffering. Also, we can look at it on a grand scale, like we are not eternally young. No one in this room is eternally young. And I think I'm 20 years old, but, but I'm not 20 years old. And so we have the pains, actually, of sickness, old age, sickness, and death. So this is, these are the facts of life. We have to go old age, sickness, and death. And even if we were to get into the heaven realms, there are different types of births. So the Buddha, he realized that he could get into the heaven realms, he could get into the Brahma realms. The Brahma realms heaven realms are achieved through doing acts of merit and also through one's morality. The Brahma realms are achieved through the attainment of samadhi, through the jhanic. Through the attainment of samadhi, this means the 4 jhanas. I think in Sanskrit they call them dhyanas. And these, they have different planes according to each jhanic plane. And then there's the arupa jhanas, and they last millions and millions and billions of years, depending on which one you attain. But eventually it ends. And that karma ends, and then you have to be reborn. And then you are reborn in the human realm. And then later you could be born at the wrong time, the wrong place, and associate with the wrong people, and you could do bad things. And you could go to the animal realm, or the hell realms, or the ghost realms. So these are the 6 planes of existence.
These are all choices.
They're not choices. Your actions are your choices. Your actions, you have some type of choice whether you want to kill someone or not kill someone.
Your action is responsible for your action. It's a choice.
Yeah. So you're responsible for your actions, and the way rebirth works is maybe that's another lesson, but whenever any type of action you do, whether you have a wholesome mind or an unwholesome mind, you get a little raffle ticket put into your karma pot. And you do this, some things you do daily, some things you do once in a blue moon. Maybe you make a great donation, like you donate a monastery, or you donate a hospital. You don't do that every day. Some people, they give alms every day. So there's power to that. And let's suppose you donate a hospital, you get like 1 million lottery tickets. Let's suppose you do something daily, you get a few lottery tickets every time you do something daily, like giving food. When you die, one of those lottery tickets gets picked. This karma, we call this vipaka. This is the results of karma. And your mind is always repeating again and again and again and again and again. When you die, it wants to continue to do. And so that karma causes what they call rebirth linking. And then you're going again in another life. And you get a new materiality and a new mind that comes. But actually you always have new materiality and a new mind that comes again and again and again through momentary by moment by moment. That's why we say there is no soul that gets reincarnated, because it's always anew, always refreshed. But the karma is the karma is what you are made up of. It's the cause, and you're always making new karma. Right now, you're making wholesome karma. You're at a Dhamma talk. You're at a wholesome activity, and you're listening to the Dhamma. And so you're accumulating moment by moment. Many wholesome Dhammas are coming to you right now. So but the next life determines a lot of things. So if you're like reborn as a dog, or let's suppose as a cat, actually. So cats are hunters, okay? So in other forms of Buddhism, sometimes they say it's like cat nature, and there is no bad karma for a cat to hunt because that's its nature. But in Theravada, we don't believe that. So if you're reborn,
Why?
Because that's the way. So a bad action is a bad action. So when the cat is hunting a mouse, okay, it has anger and it's destroying the life of another mouse. But it's ignorant. It doesn't know that this is good or bad, and it doesn't refrain from it. So that's why samsara is endless, and that's why it's so rare to get the human birth. The Buddha once he took the dust on his fingernail, and he said to the monks, he says, "Which is greater, the dust on my fingernail?" He flicks it off like that, or the dust of the whole great earth. Of course, they said that the great earth is much greater, of course, and so he said, so too is the opportunity to have the human birth.
Have a human birth?
Human birth, yeah. To have the human birth, this is how rare and how numerous the other beings are in the animal realm, and even more so in the hell realm. So this is the Buddha. He says this: "Dulabo buddhu pado lokasmin." Rare is the appearance of the Buddha, and then he says, "Rare is the chance of the human birth." I chant this every day. This was the teaching of the Buddha. Every day he taught this after he came back from alms, and when they were washing his feet. He said, "Apamadena sambadita dulabo buddhupado lokasmin dulabo manusatta patilabo." This means to actually get the human birth. Dulabo buddhupado lokasmin dulabo manusatta patilabo dulabakana sampati dulaba papaja dulabam saddhamma savanam dulabo saparisa samsevo. So he says this every day. He would say that. So now your question.
So in Theravada Buddhism,
Yes.
can you come back as an animal in reincarnation, or do you stay as a human?
Right, okay. So rare is the chance to have a human birth. So the Buddha actually was an animal many times after he got his prediction. When he was a Bodhisatta or Bodhisattva, he was an animal many times. He had a prediction. So before his prediction, he had trained to be a bodhisattva like most people train to be bodhisattvas like now. So they want to become Buddha, but they're not really anywhere near any type of quality to become Buddha. But in order to become a real Samma Sambuddho, actually let me explain the difference between Mahayana and Vajrayana to answer this question. So, Mahayana and Theravada, sorry. So, Mahayana is typically the Bodhisattva path. And Theravada is typically the Arahanta path. It's the pathway to enlightenment. The Bodhisattva path is to become a Buddha. So, I believe that the way the Mahayana teaches is that they teach the Pure Land path. And they believe that you can become Buddha, that everyone should become a Bodhisattva, and that you recite the name of Amitabha Buddha or Amita Buddha in Japan. In Chinese they call it Amitofu, not to be confused with tofu. But Amitofu, they say, Amitabha Buddha. And then they chant that name over and over again. They take this Bodhisattva vow, and they go into the Pure Land, and then they await. They go there, and they can become a Buddha eventually. So this is the heaven realms, and this is what they teach in Mahayana. Now, some people say that Buddha means enlightenment, because they also want, a lot of the Westerners, they're very into Mahayana, and they want enlightenment. They don't want to go around through samsara forever and ever and ever and ever again. So they want to become enlightened. Yeah. So Buddha means to be enlightened, but there's a big difference. This Buddha here, okay, this is Samma Sambuddho. This is Gautama Buddha.
Who?
Gautama Buddha. Okay, so this is like Prince Siddhartha was the Bodhisattva, and so this is a Sri Lanka Buddha, and it's a very nice Buddha. It's carved from sandstone. They're all unique. And it's sent to me from Sri Lanka. The Samma Sambuddho, a Samma Sambuddha is one that's self-enlightened, fully self-enlightened, one who discovers the teachings for themselves. An Arahant is one who can be fully enlightened. As far as enlightenment is concerned, the disciple and the Buddha, there's no difference, especially after death. They reach parinibbana, finish. They don't live in nibbana. Mahayana sometimes says that that nirvana is some transcendental state that you can live in. There is nothing like that in Theravada. Nibbana means the end of samsara, the end of rebirth. There is no consciousness. There is no consciousness in nibbana. Impossible. So, the Samma Sambuddho, when somebody says you can become Buddha in this, they say you can become Buddha in this very life. The Theravadas, we laugh, because we think of Samma Sambuddho, and this is a very, very special being. And in order to become a Samma Sambuddho, you have to train for what they call 4 incalculable periods of time after you get the prediction. Before you get the prediction, you have to also train. And you have to be in the presence of a Buddha, and at that time, you will be able to become fully enlightened, a very special, I think, Patisambhida Arhat is a very special, fully enlightened disciple. With just one stanza, one line, you'll be able to become enlightened. And you'll be able to have full psychic powers. And this Buddha here, when a long, long time ago, he was the hermit Sumedha, and he received the prediction from the Buddha when he lied down on the ground and covered part of the road that was not finished for him to walk on. We always hear the stories of the gentleman. He takes his jacket and he puts his coat over a puddle so the lady can walk over it. But this hermit, he lied down himself, and he wanted the Buddha and all his disciples to walk on top of him. And he was giving his life because he would have been trampled to death. And with that act, he was able to become a real bodhisattva with a prediction. Buddhas never make mistakes. So if they say, if you're going to be a Buddha in the future, that's for sure. So you have to train for 4 incalculables. 4 incalculables, they say that if you had, some people say the size of the Himalayas, if you had a piece of granite the size of the Himalaya mountains, Mount Everest, some people say Mount Meru, which is much, much bigger. And every 100 years, a bird came with a scarf. And just, if this was the granite, and this was a bird with a scarf, it was the finest silk, and just went like that and just brushed over it once every 100 years. For that granite to wear down would be 1 incalculable. Now, a better term would be, in modern science, we have what we call a Big Bang. In physics, we have the Big Bang. The universe is expanding for a long, long time. It's still expanding. And eventually that velocity is going to slow down due to the effects of gravity, of the other planets, other black holes, and everything. And then slowly they're going to join together, and then the gravity is going to get stronger, and then those will come together, and those will come together. Everything will come together until the pressure is just so incredible that it will explode again, and a new universe will be born. So that's a really long time, right? So the beginning of the universe hasn't even finished yet. It hasn't even gone to half of that. It's still expanding. And so we would call that Big Bangs. So Bhikkhu Bodhi is the translator, and he says 4 Big Bangs of lifetimes. It's a lot of lifetimes, right? So, in order to become a Samma Sambuddho, you have to train for that period of time. It's very important. Because it's difficult to change oneself in this lifetime, in one single lifetime. So it takes many, many lifetimes to train. So, the Buddha needs to train that way to become this very, very special being who can teach and who's very powerful and all-knowing. And so he can develop these qualities. During that time, to answer your question about being an animal, going backwards, as you might think. Mm-hmm. And some Hindu religions, they say that you're always moving forward. But it depends. Some Hindu, there's some sects of the Hindu, they believe in the rats, right? The rat temple. They go rat to human, humans to rat. And I think there's a monkey temple as well. But after the Buddha, he received that prediction. He was already special. And he could have been fully enlightened just by one stanza. He had to train for another 4 Big Bangs. And there are the stories called Jataka Tales. And they document the Bodhisattva's life, and most of them, unless it's said otherwise, those stories come from after the prediction. And, wait one second. So, it's numerous and numerous and numerous lifetimes which were animal realm. And they also mentioned that he had to go to the hell realm too. And so that's, for someone like that, what more can we say about a normal person? Your question.
If you are on a path of, I guess, righteousness or whatever, which you might think that Buddha is the end point for that, okay? At what point, what are you doing in that point, during that period of time? I mean, you commit yourself to
righteousness?
To righteousness, okay?
Yeah.
So what are you doing between the time that you say, I want to commit myself that until you achieve this Buddhahood, as it were?
Buddhahood or just enlightenment?
I thought they were pretty much synonymous.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, see, this is why I wanted to teach this to the world.
So what's the difference between?
Yeah. So let's talk about a Sammasambuddho versus a Buddha. Buddha means enlightenment, true, but it's usually ambiguous. So I've said this many times before. So if we were to take the world of physics, so a Sammasambuddho is one who's self-enlightened. He discovers the teachings. So in the world of physics, we could take Einstein. Einstein's he doesn't appear in the world very often, Einstein, the person who discovers the theory of relativity. He's special. Other people can learn his teachings. We sort of know his teachings, right? We know that we can have nuclear bombs, we split atoms, and somehow we get nuclear bombs. We don't really know how it works, unless you're a physicist. But a professor, or someone who has a physics degree in university, they really know Einsteinian physics.
But that's a moving target.
So, well...
It has been for thousands of years.
I don't understand.
Well, mathematics,
Yeah. So Einstein discovers the teachings, okay? And he's very special. And people who have physics degrees, they can understand it to maybe the perfected level, okay? I'll relate this to enlightenment later. So then, and for sure a professor, he's like an enlightened disciple as far as physics are concerned, okay? But these professors, even some of the best ones, MIT professor, Caltech University professor, they are not the Einstein.
No, of course not.
Right. Einstein's very, very special because he can discover it. He can discover the natural laws that already exist. And the Sammasambuddho is one who's very, very special, and he can discover the teachings that already exist. For a Sammasambuddho to exist, for him to discover the teachings, there cannot be the Dhamma, cannot be the Dharma, the Buddhist Dharma, alive in the world. It has to be gone. That's why we sort of laugh when there's two Buddhas, or someone can become Buddha in one lifetime. You can become Buddha in this life. So, because they say Bodhisattva, they're really talking about this. So we don't, remember I said the concentric circles? So we have this circle, and this circle. This is Theravada, this is Mahayana, and this is Vajrayana. So the core teachings, they should match, but...
So according to your metaphor of Einstein versus a perfected enlightened physics professor.
Yes.
So Einstein would be what? Would be considered as the Samasam Buddha,
Yeah,
and the professor would be considered as
Arahant.
Arahant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he would be the fully enlightened disciple.
Okay. Fully
One.
enlightened.
And Einstein doesn't even have to be alive anymore.
Okay.
But the professor, he can study and he can know it to perfection.
And he can go beyond the knowledge of Einstein, as they have already done.
Well, yeah, but this is
it's not static.
yeah, but this is just an example. It's just not. It's not perfect. It's just to bring that point. So the level of enlightenment is actually the same between the Arhat and the Buddha. The Buddha has more wisdom and more power. He has the perfected psychic powers, and he's got the all-knowing omniscience. So he has an incredible knowledge and wisdom. And this is where they're different. After they die, there's no difference. As far as the fetters, we say the samyojanas, they're the same. These fetters are missing.
What's a fetter?
These are the things that keep you bound
Gotcha.
to samsara. Fetter is it's like handcuffs. Yeah.
For the Buddha, it was a child. That's what he called his son, his fetter. That's like what I read.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, Rahula was his son.
So you said that after death there's nirvana and there's no more consciousness.
Right. So they're the same. Yeah.
So then my question is, what's the point of coming to a point of from being a conscious being to going to no consciousness?
Yeah. So a lot of people say that.
What
Sometimes
is the purpose of all of this work from being conscious being to arriving at no consciousness?
Yeah. So this is one of the most difficult things to digest. To be like, well, then what happens? Then I'm nothing anymore. And the problem is that in Buddhism we try not to speak in terms of the nihilistic terms, where that there's, like an atheist, you die, it's finished, right? And then there's a nihilistic view, and then there's the eternalist view. So these are two extreme views. But what happens is that we say there is no self. That right now there is no self, and you discover that, and this is, you have to understand that. You have to understand what suffering is, how it is suffering, how life is suffering, and then you understand that it's real peace. You can actually escape, but it's difficult because we're speaking in conventional terms. But it's always arising and passing away. We're nothing but like this foam that is always changing. Sometimes I look at a waterfall on my alms round. I'm allowed to go behind someone's house and look at this wonderful waterfall in Kilauea. And I reflect on that, how there's always a shape of that waterfall, but it's always new water. So is there really a waterfall? Or is it just made up of drops of water that are always moving?
What's the difference?
So
many drops of water versus one drop of water. I mean, thousands of drops of water.
Yeah. So it's part of the study of Theravada to understand mind and matter, and what are we right now, and then to understand that when you really start reaching the stages of insight, when you achieve the stages of insight, you start to understand about mind, matter, and the causes of mind and matter, and that it's arising and passing away. And then you develop equanimity, and then you develop fear, dread. You don't want that anymore. And these are part of the advanced stages of insight that one achieves. And so one, but sometimes it's difficult to digest this idea of no soul. Eventually, you're getting down to that. I am a soul, and then my soul is going to not exist, right? So that's what you're saying, right? And so in Buddhism, we don't in Theravada Buddhism, we don't talk about a soul. In Mahayana, I think they do talk about it. It depends who you ask, and you get mixed views about that. And in Hinayana, in Hinduism, they believe in a soul, and that you can become one with the Brahma, right? And so you can enter the source. I think you can enter the source. You can stop being a separate shell, and you can enter that cosmic energy. And this is maybe one of the goals of Hinduism. But in Theravada, there's a very distinct difference between all other religions. All the other religions, they talk about a soul, transmigration of a soul, the reincarnation of a soul. And in Buddhism, we don't speak like that. We say anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So I had explained what anicca was. Anicca was impermanent, like that straw. And our body is like that waterfall. And it's impermanent, and because of that, it's suffering. Anatta means, maybe you've heard that, because do you speak Hindi? Yeah. So anatta is non-self. Atta means self. These are the three characteristics: impermanence, suffering, and non-self.
Is enlightenment an end point? Because I like to think of enlightenment as a moving target. But it's something I'm sensing that I'm hearing there's a bit of either enlightenment being a place or an achievement, whatever, okay? Which it sounds like to me it's almost dead space. It isn't moving at all. At least for me, I think of enlightenment as being a moving target.
So one doesn't go to Nibbana, one realizes. One doesn't go to Nibbana, Nirvana, one realizes Nirvana or Nibbana. Through wisdom, through knowledge, it becomes the object of the mind. Before, in the four stages of enlightenment. So, if you want to have the bliss of nirvana and still be alive, you can slowly go for the four stages of enlightenment. But when you reach the first stage, you'll want to progress further, because you will fully know that life is suffering, impermanent, and that there is no self. And you'll understand that it is suffering, and you want to escape.
So what are the four stages of enlightenment?
There is Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arahant. Sotapanna means stream enter. You got that? Stream entry. Yeah. Then there's Sakadagami, means once returner.
Once return?
Yeah, you can come back once. And then there's Anagami, you don't come back. But you can actually go to the heaven realm, the Brahma realms. You would go to the Brahma realms, most likely. And then the Arahant, after death, he doesn't go anywhere. The consciousness doesn't get reborn. It stops. Like a lighter. You have a lighter, and it's without the fuel anymore. So the Arhat has no more karma, doesn't have that fuel for rebirth.
Why would you go?
Through the realization of nirvana, nibbana, and understanding that the causes for the fuel is actually the causes. So the fuel for rebirth is the Arhat doesn't have greed, hatred, or delusion.
Doesn't have what?
Greed, hatred, or delusion.
Okay. Cool.
So there's other things, like there's three fetters. The fetters are destroyed through the knowledge of the insight knowledge, and through knowing of nibbana directly, through realization of that. And so the Arhat, he doesn't have any greed, hatred, or delusion. And a lot of the karma is done through desire. And these are the causes for existence to happen. So when those causes aren't there, the results cannot happen. So these are called the sanyojanas, are the causes, and these the fuel, the thing that keeps you bound to samsara. This is a little more deep than I wanted to go today, but that's fine because we have a small group, and so we can customize. We can customize everything. So we talked about the Bodhisattva, the Bodhisatta. In Bodhisattva and Bodhisatta. So Bodhisattva is where you want to become Buddha. In Theravada we have the Bodhisatta, which is the same thing. The difference between Mahayana and Vajrayana is they believe they can go to the heaven realm and achieve Buddhahood. They can just wait there and then they can become Buddha and save humanity this way. In Theravada, we also have the Bodhisattva path, but we call it the Bodhisatta. We use the Pali word. And we believe that you have to wait for big bangs. So in order to grow, one needs to sort of have trials and tribulations. We have to have conflict, and we have to overcome conflict. So in Mahayana, they believe that you go to the Pure Land, you just sit on a cloud. It's like getting massaged your whole life and getting spoon-fed your whole life, because this is what the heaven realms are like. So you cannot develop that way. You cannot develop, if you go there, if you really want to become Buddha, you have to develop somehow.
And you have to engage.
Yeah, so that's why it takes 4 big bangs of lifetimes, sometimes as an animal, sometimes as a human, sometimes in the heaven realms, but there's not really much that happens in the heaven realms. And then he comes down and he's in the human realms. Yes?
You've mentioned many times today about the 4 big bangs and etc. in terms of the length of time it takes for somebody to get enlightened or to arrive at Buddhahood, right?
Yes.
Yet, my understanding of that thing is it's timeless, it's causeless, it's spaceless.
Okay.
So you're talking in terms of
that's nibbana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yet, so to arrive at that and to speak in kind of linear time frames is sort of how does one go from the linear time, this thing, into the timeless domain, spaceless, causeless, formless domain, which we are all aspiring towards and hoping to enter into? I mean, who
But this is...
Who kind of decides there's going to be 4, maybe 3, maybe 2, maybe 1, maybe this moment?
Right.
And so it might be that...
This is for a Buddha. This is to be trained as a Buddha, as a Bodhisattva. This is different from enlightenment in general, which is achievable in this lifetime.
In this very moment, as long as one enters fully into the eternal moment, where past, present, and future collapses into this eternal moment.
Well, yeah, that's possible. I'm very specific about the Buddha because I want to explain that the Mahayana Vajrayana is the Bodhisattva path, and Theravada has the enlightenment path and also the Bodhisattva path. We say Bodhisatta.
Now, is enlightenment considered as a lower accomplishment than Buddhahood?
As far as accomplishment, as far as being a teacher, there is no greater teacher than the Buddha himself.
Okay.
But as far as the level of enlightenment, the attainment,
so enlightenment would be like the university professor.
Right.
That would be like the Einstein.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So after Einstein discovered it, they're both like the same.
Sure.
Their knowledge is the same. We'd like to think that Einstein would be a better teacher too. Okay. But who knows? Maybe he can't really.
Sure.
maybe he's a savant or something. I don't know. So, what I'm speaking about is the Theravada perspective.
Sure.
Okay. And I'm very biased. I'm very, very biased.
I'm just trying to understand in terms of how in the Theravada tradition they've come up with these linear time zones of 4 big bangs or 3 big bangs or 2 big bangs. I mean, who kind of sits and makes these kind of declarations that it's going to take you this long to arrive here and that long in linear time to arrive there?
Do you cook?
Absolutely.
Is there some types of stuff that has to cook very slowly?
Yes.
And if you were to cook it very fast, it wouldn't have that flavor?
Yes. Yet in the Indian tradition that I come from, there is something beautiful, which I'm sure there is in Theravada too, because Buddha was from the Indian continent.
Right.
That the element of grace, which is always there, and all we have to do is to be willing to receive it, to be receptive to it. And that grace is absolutely magical. It can convert a sinner into a saint. It can convert a killer into a completely non-violent human being.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that grace can be invoked, and one can be open and receptive to it. So with the combination of personal effort, which is sadhana, and grace, it's a dynamite, unstoppable combination. So when you put those two combinations together, a personal effort, your own personal sadhana, along with grace, the world is your oyster. So this 4 bangs and 3
This
bangs.
is just for the Buddha though. This is not for enlightenment.
Oh.
So the Buddha is already here, the teachings are already here. And if you have the capabilities to realize the teachings, okay, then you can do it this very moment. But the Buddha is very special.
You actually said
Samma Sambuddha. So, but anyone can achieve enlightenment, and they can get that. So, what I'm just talking about what a bodhisattva is in terms of Mahayana, and what it is in terms of Theravada. Yeah, and
I just have one question. Within the
Okay.
Theravada tradition, is there any understanding of, like in yogic tradition, we have understanding of energy centers and kundalini.
Right.
Is there anything parallel in Theravada?
yeah, in Tibetan they have the energy centers, the chakras, And it's very close, Tibet is very close to India, of course. And so some of that tradition actually went there. But in Theravada, there's only like one. I looked for this, okay? And because I used to do Kriya Yoga a long time ago. And this involves the chakras. And it's only mentioned...
Kriya Yoga with SRF or with...
with a different teacher, and
Okay.
but I know about the Paramahamsa Yogananda.
Yogi
Yeah.
Satyam?
Huh?
Was it Yogi Satyam?
No, it was
Okay.
something else. Don't worry about it. It was very, very early in my spiritual life, and but there was just one commentary in one of the Abhidhamma books. I think it was the Elements, probably the Dhatu Katha, where they mention it briefly. But there's one teacher in Thailand who teaches like three chakras and syncing them with the breath. But it's not traditional. It's not a traditional subject of Theravada, the chakras. The main thing to do is to, normally I teach during the Sunday mornings, but I wanted to do a nighttime class because I wanted to see if I could, what it would be like to teach at night. And we do a guided meditation. And I was going to do a guided meditation here, but I think we're going to be running out of time. So it's a small, but the goal is to create the light, to actually achieve the light of wisdom, and then to get the light of wisdom through the breath meditation. Or you can also do this through metta bhavana. They call this Maitri in Sanskrit. And so you can get the light of wisdom, and then you can be calm, and you can see, just like the water's calm, you can see underneath. In the same way, if there's light and there's calmness, you can see inside. And this is vipassana, to look inside, to insight, and to see mind and matter. And metta bhavana, the practice of loving kindness, is very central to Theravada. It's often seen as a selfish path and not compassionate, but the four Brahma Viharas, the loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity are key things in the Theravada practice. And then to see mind and matter. And so maybe we can use this time to do a quick loving kindness meditation. Maybe we'll go a little later. We have the room till 8:30. There was going to be time for question and answer, but we've had lots of questions and we've had lots of answers.